Hello and welcome to Muscle Car Boulevard, America's hottest cruise spot. I'm Terry Brennan, and I want you to get revved up and ready to roll because we got a whole lot of road to cover in the next half hour. And coming up first, we'll check out some AMC muscle in North Carolina. We'll cruise by what may be the world's largest muscle car collection, and then we'll head to Iowa, get some tips on what to look for when buying that first muscle car. In this week's Celebrity Muscle, we'll spotlight NASCAR driver Ken Schrader. Next, it's off to Georgia and a look at one of the premier aftermarket parts and accessories suppliers. And we'll round it all off with a few laps around the track in Muscle Car Boulevard's Pick of the Week. But before we redline on big block excitement, let's check in with my co-host, Tony Perensky. Word has it, she's hanging out with a legend.
That's right, Terry. I am definitely hanging out with a legend. The 1969 Yenko Camaro. Wow, talk about muscle. This Yenko came packed full of horsepower. And coming up next, I'll tell you more about this Yenko and the man behind the legend.
Thanks, Tony. As you can see, we've crammed a lot of show under the hood today, so get in, buckle up, and get ready to cruise. When we come back, we're headed down Muscle Car Boulevard. Welcome back to Muscle Car Boulevard. We're glad you could join us at our home base, Mark Kramer's Rock and Roll McDonald's, here at the Pavilions in Scottsdale, Arizona, where every Saturday night is cruise night. It's a muscle car lover's dream come true. The nights are warm and the cars are hot. And speaking of hot cars, when you think muscle car, what ride comes to mind? A Mustang, Camaro, Cuda, Corvette maybe? Anybody say AMX? Well, if you did, you just might feel right at home at our event feature this week. Concord, North Carolina is the location for the American Motors Owners Association annual show. And AMO founder Don Loper gets us up to speed.
American Motors Owners Association was basically formed in California back in the early 70s. I found AMO with about 30 members, and now we have 2,000.
We have people that are members in Saudi Arabia, all over Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Mexico, Puerto Rico, and so forth.
Everybody who owns AMCs and loves AMCs gets together and we have a good time.
I was president and chairman of the board for about the first, I think about 8 years. And since then, I'm on the board of directors, and I'm now a national vice president, historian, what else? Publicity chairman, as of yesterday.
My interest in this is, of course, the AMX, which is probably the most collectible and the most desirable of all the performance cars that American Motors built. The AMX stands for American Motors Experimental. It's a two-seat sports car, and it was made so the average guy could buy it if he wanted something a little more special than a Javelin or some of the other pony cars.
Yeah, the great thing about an American Motors car is when you restore one, you're about the only one on your block with one.
Well, because AMC was not a very popular company, coming from Rambler and Nash and Hudson history, the cars were sort of like closet muscle cars, and people didn't realize what was going on until long after the fact. And now they're appreciated for what they are.
You know, I don't remember the last time I saw so many AMCs in one place. We'll check back in with them a little later. Next, our Cruise in America feature takes us to Sevierville, Tennessee, home of Floyd Garrett's Muscle Car Museum. It's wall-to-wall muscle at this house full of horsepower. Check it out.
My first love was cars, and then I was going to have one or two, and then it just, then 3 or 4. I've got some of the rarest muscle cars probably ever built. You know, the Hemi heads, the lightweight, the factory lightweights. I got one of 14 Swiss cheese Pontiacs, the 63 Pontiac, 64 Thunderbolt, and 63 Z11 Chevrolet with 427 with 2 4s, 69 Camaro with the all-aluminum 427 engine. Today's cars, they all just about look alike, and you know, it's just great that the old cars, you can relate to them. You know, you can tell the difference between a Chevelle and a Camaro and a Nova or a Mustang. I'm pleasantly surprised at the young people that has come in here and say, well, my daddy told me about these cars and I want to see them. I can't hardly tell you a favorite car. Of course, you know, I'm a die-hard old bow tie boy, but I love a 57 Chevrolet. A 61 Impala was my first new car. My second was a 62 Super Sport 409, and a 70 Chevelle LS6, I think, has got to be an ultimate, and a 67 427 Corvette 435 horse. The new engines in here, Chevrolet Motor Division donated to me. You see in the race shop scene, they donated that Corvette motor where we converting a 57 Chevrolet over to the computer age. You know, people come in here and see these cars. When they ask me, one of the things is how much horsepower is under this one roof. So I went to each individual car and figured that advertised horsepower, and it ended up like 37,537 or something. It was an odd number, of course, but it was over 37,000 horsepower in this building. What people find in here is high horsepower and plenty cubic inches.
Now that is a must-see collection. And of course, no collection would be complete without a big block Camaro. To get the ultimate, you need one of these, a '69 Yenko. Just when the muscle car era seemed like it couldn't get any better, along came Don Yenko. Through his Chevy dealership in Pennsylvania, Yenko started squeezing 427s into F-body Camaros. Distinctive graphics, along with a few other go-fast goodies, made the package complete. In 1969, $4,600 bought the ultimate street machine. You should have bought a dozen. Hey, don't go away. We'll be right back with more on the Boulevard. Hey, everybody misses a gear now and then, but not if you're driving one of these. A '69 Yenko with Hurst dual-gate slapstick automatic. 32 were produced, and only 6 are known to exist today. Terry, I want one of these.
Oh yeah, me too, Tony. Thanks. Well, this week's restoration feature takes us to Duffy's Collectible Cars in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where Duffy Schamberger is our resident expert when it comes to restoring the muscle car of your dreams. Today, Duffy gives us some valuable information on what it takes to get started. Watch this.
Thanks, Terry. Okay, so you've decided to buy a muscle car. Well, that's great. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can either buy one that's fully reconditioned and ready for the Boulevard like this one, or for your do-it-yourselfers, here's a checklist of things that you might want to do before you put down your hard-earned money and begin having a lot of fun. Depending on whether you're looking for a correct numbers-matching car or just a daily driver, your objective may vary. Start with a thorough inspection of the exterior. Check the body panels for fit and signs of repair work. Large gaps between panels may indicate previous damage. By using a magnet, you should be able to detect Bondo beneath the paint. Carefully examine the wheels and tires and be sure to check the lug nuts, center caps, and trim rings for correctness and quality. Open the hood and carefully examine the engine for correctness, detail, and previous damage. Check for repair work to the front radiator support and inspect the overall condition of the engine bay, belts, brackets, and so on. Sit inside the car. Note options like the tack, gauges, or tilt wheel. Be sure to check the condition of the headliner, steering wheel, and dash pad. Always open the trunk. Check to see if there's a matching spare wheel, tire, and jack. Lift up the trunk mat and look for signs of rust or repair. This area can also give you a hint as to the car's original color. Road test the car with the radio off and listen closely for any unusual sounds, such as lifters, pistons, or bearings. Transmission shifts should be tight and responsive. Braking should be solid with no pull or noise. And be sure to note all gauges for accuracy and working order. To help ensure that you're getting exactly what you want, reference materials are widely available to decipher virtually any factory code numbers, from engine blocks and cowl tags to bill sheets and VIN numbers. Now you've got to decide if this is the right muscle car for you. If not, keep looking. That's part of the fun. Next week, we'll work on developing a budget for that new toy of yours.
Great information. Thanks, Duffy. Well, you ever wonder what kind of muscle those NASCAR drivers have in their garage at home? We made a quick pit stop to visit veteran driver Ken Schrader Let's see what kind of toys he plays with off the track. Here's this week's Celebrity Muscle.
Muscle cars are just way cool. To me, you know, it's the car you couldn't afford in high school. It's the car that they wanted, for some reason, couldn't get. It's the car that they had and for some reason had to sell it. This was the era that when I first started driving and stuff, I mean, these were the neat cars. You get in them, and even though they shake a little bit and they're not as quiet as the new cars, and you got a little air noise and that, you don't notice it because it's so damn much quieter than that race car that they're still just a pleasure to drive down the road. Well, I just got a couple little play toys, you know, that these are the two cars that were special to me as far as race cars go. My first race car I ever had was a '64 Impala. You know, I got fond memories of that first race car, even though this was, it was a hardtop, obviously, what I had. I got a lot of laps in that car, you know. First night you ever run, wound up with one championship first year and then moved up to the next class the following year. You know, a lot of good memories from the first race car. You know, I wanted a '64, and I ran across this convertible up at Duffy's, and when I walked in, I knew I had to leave with it that night. I'm kind of partial to it. This little Super Sport here, it's got a 327 in it, automatic, and this is a convertible, but still kind of partial to those '64s. I had to have it. And then as we progressed a little bit, '68 Camaros were the hot car to have. So I wanted a '68. I saw it and I just said, well, I need to lug this thing home too. It's not a tricked up Camaro, it's just a clean little '68 327 in it. It's got power steering, power brakes, automatic, air. I'm not much for shifting then. Have to do that all weekend, so I just soon have the automatic and the power steering and the power brakes. The drivers now that are, you know, in their 40s or something like that are going back and having the into the muscle car era. I know Ernie's got some cars, Dale Earnhardt's got some cars, Rusty's got a couple little cars. Ted Musgrave actually does a lot of work on his cars. Just about everybody, I think, has got a play toy. Well, I think the whole muscle car deal, I think it just takes you back in time, get part of your youth back maybe. You know, it takes a lot of people back in their youth, you know, look back at that era, and that was muscle cars then. Muscle cars are just way cool.
I agree with Ken. Muscle cars are way cool. Now, let's check in with Tony. I hear she's brushing up on her Yenko trivia.
Here's something to think about, Terry. In 1969, Chevrolet agreed to factory build a limited number of 427s using the Central Office Production Ordering System, or COPO, and offered a full 5-year, 50,000-mile warranty. These babies came with 15-inch rally wheels, bigger front stabilizer bar, and a 140-mile-an-hour speedometer. To add a little icing to the cake, Yenko offered optional mags, gauges, headers, and the distinctive SYC insignia and striping that set these rockets apart from the rest. So, what does SYC stand for? The answer when we come back. Welcome back to Muscle Car Boulevard. So, what does SYC stand for? If you guessed Yenko Supercar, you're absolutely right. So, what did you guess, Terry?
Well, Tony, I got part of it right. I guessed Yenko Super Camaro. I think we're both right, depending on who you talk to. Now think about this. Does AMC have a place in muscle car history? Listen to what some of AMO's members have to say, and then you decide.
We've got about 130 to 150 cars here today, and you can see the quality of them. But you can also see that we've got a lot of kids and families and wives and significant others in attendance, and everybody's having fun. And that's what this club was formed for.
It's family, it's friends. We all have one thing in common. We love our AMCs.
AMC! They're absolutely outlandish cars with their red, white, and blue paint schemes and all this, and they just scream performance.
4th of July was rough driving it. Everybody thought I was had a special paint scheme for, 4th of July, but, it's a factory paint scheme.
Some of these things turn like 1086s at 127 miles an hour, pretty much as you see this one sitting here. So they were real strong.
They weren't your mother's Rambler anymore, that's right. I think AMC has a definite place in the muscle car history.
There's no substitute for cubic inches and raw power of a 1960s and 70s muscle car.
Wow, is that a cool sound or what? Now, if you're looking for restoration parts for your GM or Chrysler muscle car, where do you go? Well, here's a company that has all the right stuff. Year One Incorporated. This week's feature, aftermarket supplier. Take a look.
Year One supplies restoration parts and accessories for GM and Chrysler muscle cars. We tend to specialize in cars from the late 50s through the early to mid 70s, really. It varies, of course, by car line. We currently carry a variety of parts for the restoration of muscle cars. We have sheet metal parts and repair panels for the body of the cars, whether that be trunk floors, floor pans, patch panels for fenders. We also do carry fenders and quarter panels. We also carry a wide, tremendous variety, really, of interior parts, seat covers, carpets, headliners, dash pads, really you name it. If it's on the inside of the car, we probably have gotten it. Really just about everything that you could imagine. You don't need too much really these days to start with. If you have a firewall, a vent plate, roof and quarter panels, we can pretty much supply the rest for you. I think muscle car enthusiasm really doesn't know any national boundaries. We ship parts, muscle car parts all around the world. We ship them to Europe, we ship them to Asia, we ship them to the Middle East. It's really amazing how wide a following and how diverse a following the American muscle car has now. If there's a muscle car anywhere in the world, really, and they need parts, they can give us a call, we can get the parts to them.
Year One, this is Steve. How can I help you?
Since we do most of our business over the phone and talking to the people that way, our catalog is basically our store. I think right now we're more or less in the midst of another muscle car craze. It's a pretty exciting time right now, I think, to be a muscle car enthusiast. People like exclusive styling, people like performance, people like flashiness, so to speak. Those are all hallmarks of the great American muscle car of the 60s and early 70s. One of the main reasons I think Year One's been so successful is simply because we're a company of enthusiasts. I'd say at least 90% of the employees of Year One were customers of Year One before they came to work for us. And it's through that involvement with the hobby and with the sport itself that we've been able to be a leader in the industry, and hopefully we'll continue to be. One of the most important things I guess I can say about Year One and what it is that we're trying to do here is we never forget what this hobby's all about. I mean, sure, it's a business and we work here and we have business concerns, but the really important thing are these cars and the people that are working on these cars. That's something that we really never want to forget. If we ever do forget that fact and forget what's important about what we're trying to do here, then we'll probably just pack it up and go home.
Of approximately 201 1969 Yenko Camaros produced, only a few still exist today. We got lucky and found these beauties in Iowa. Oh, and remember that $4,600 price tag I mentioned earlier? Well, you can forget that and expect to pay a handsome 6 figures today. Now that's a sound investment. Hey, don't you dare touch that remote, because we'll be back with more muscle car action on the Boulevard.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You know, each week we like to feature a muscle car that we think is exceptional. And they don't get much better than a mint condition 66 Shelby Cobra with a 427. We found this one burning up the track at Bob Bondurant's School of High Performance Driving in Phoenix, Arizona. Better hold on tight.
Well, this is a 66 427 Cobra. It has a side oiler engine in it with tunnel port heads and high lifter with 2 4-barrel carburetors, so it's got plenty of power for a small car. And these were only built for 2 years, 65 and 66, the big blocks. There were 312 of them made. This one is all original, body through and through. So it has some history to it. It doesn't have large race history to it other than vintage racing here in recent years. When you start it, that begins the thrill. But the acceleration is just unbelievable. At 60 miles an hour, you can get it sideways just by stepping on the throttle. First of all, there's nothing like the feel of a V8. Especially a big bore V8. I mean, they just thump, they don't scream, and they have so much torque. It's the only car that I know that I have fun in just idling it.
Whoa, cool car. Well, that just about wraps up our look at the '69 Yenko SC Camaro. Be sure to join me right here next week for more big block excitement. Well, I guess there's only one thing left to say about this muscle car. Thanks, Don.
Wow, Tony always has high-powered fun. And thanks indeed to legends like Don Yenko. We're all truly grateful. Hey, thanks for cruising with us. We'll be back next week with a whole new lineup of muscle car excitement. I'm Terry Brennan for Muscle Car Boulevard. Be safe, and we'll be seeing you right here on the Boulevard.